11 minutes after 6 here on Morning Barbados. We continue apace with our program, and this morning we start with 4 ways to build your business. It is our Money Matters segment, and we're pleased to welcome back Curtis Belgrave, who's the National Director of the BNI. Good morning. Welcome again.
Good morning, and it's nice to be here.
Nice to have you back. Now, building businesses, that would appear to be a slightly tricky exercise in the current economic market. However, you are full of optimism, as always, and I'm wondering if you can start us with the basics. What do we first need to consider before we even think whether or not it is wise to start building a business?
Well, the first thing you have to decide is what is going to be your target market. You got to know where this product or service is going to be aimed at. And once that has been determined, then I always say before you get rolling, get rid of the energy vampires. You know, there are people out there who will tell you why it can't work. Don't do it that way. I know who tried it and it didn't work out. And you need to get rid of them. You also need to get rid of some of those habits that you have that can also steal your energy or suck it out of you. So you need to look at that first of all. Who are my energy vampires? Where are they? And once you've got that out of the way, then you need to look at, okay, what am I going to do next? You can either advertise, you can either cold call, you can look at your public relations, or you can find a way in which you can keep referral business coming week after week, month after month, and year after year. So let's look at advertising. That's traditional. Everybody knows you have to create visibility for your product or your service. People must know about it. You have to be able to let the nation know. So you need to advertise. And of course, you need to have the money to pay for that as well. So a startup budget is going to be very important. And depending on where you're going to target, what you're going to do, then your accountant will help you with that. In addition to that now, you also must do something else. And that is you must get brand recognition. That's where the PR comes in, you know, so that they can tell the people about the product. You remember Nike? You know that little check mark? Ooh, wherever you see that, you know what that represents. And perhaps that is where you want your company to go. Branding recognition is going to be absolutely important. And therefore, you must have a plan in which you can get your brand out there. Now, that may come perhaps after 2-3 years, I don't know, depending on the product and how well you're doing and how large you got started. If you start like most people are starting now, which is little tiny weeny steps, that's how most people are starting. They want to be cautious, and they want to make sure that they don't go and overcommit themselves. So you need to look at the brand, what is it going to do, where is it being targeted, and of course, how you're going to get that message out. PR is good for that.
Let's get back a little bit even before we started business. You mentioned energy vampires. How does one differentiate between someone who's just going to be a naysayer regardless, or somebody who's actually bringing some good advice to the table?
Well, first of all, you need to have a little background information on that individual. What have they done? Have they done something similar like I'm doing? Or they're just what we call a Monday morning quarterback. They can tell you the A's, the B's, but they haven't done it. And you know, here in Barbados, we have a lot of those people who can tell you how to do something, how it should be done, but they haven't done it, have no experience. So that's the first thing you need to know. What does this person know, or what have they done in terms of getting the business off the ground that I should take their advice? And once you've determined that, then you know that that's a person you can at least say bring in to be part of your network, because you have to build a network as well. So you need these people. These are the go-to people, the people with the experience that you can ask, you can run something by, because they have the experience.
So once you've determined that it's not an energy vampire, it's in your good, it's good to make them an ally. Is that what you're saying?
Well, perhaps if they're that interested in the business, they may just want to see you do well and, you know, perhaps help you whenever they can, but not necessarily want to commit themselves, let's say, to working for you. But they are great people you can go to from time to time, and it doesn't necessarily mean that they have to be the most successful business person in town. It's someone that you can have open communication with.
Having said that, how does one determine whether they, as maybe the person with the idea, you have all this idea and you want to turn it into that enterprise. How do they determine when they are right to be the front person? Because you mentioned the fact that branding is very important, and you know, whatever you associate with, that's your branding. So how important is it for you to know if you're the right person to be out front, or you need to get someone else to deal with that?
Well, I guess experience, a couple of trials and errors. You know, you got to do that. You have to invest that kind of time in it, and must be prepared to understand that. Because you have a great idea, sounds good, you are well qualified, but are you the front person? Are you what we call then the person who can do the hardest part of the task, and that's the cold calling? Most people don't like to cold call. I mean, it's tough knocking on doors and calling people for the first time, and perhaps sometimes you hear, I don't want to, you know, and you back off. In other words, the fear sets in, and you no longer can do it. You find yourself suffering what is known as call reluctance. You can't even pick up the phone anymore because you are afraid. So you need to learn how to get rid of that fear. And obviously, there may be people in your network that you can call on, people in the community that you can call on. So it is very important to have this resume of names of people that you can go to for support or help, because you can't do it alone. None of us can. So you need to have these fundamental things in place so that when the time is right, hey, I better call, you know, Curtis, because he's always talking about, or, you know, maybe I should call, yeah, you know, and you have to have that. That's your resourcefulness that you must be able to reach into and find out who can best help you based on what you're currently faced with.
So let's say, for example, that call reluctance has set in. Why not meet people where they're at? Online, on the internet, on Facebook, on Twitter, on their websites, your website. What is the role of social networking and the online presence in general in building a business? Certainly,
and this is very topical today. I mean, social networking is it. If you don't have some way in which you can communicate with people socially, you're not with it, as they say. So you need a presence there on the internet as well. And the thing about social networking, though, is if you once you are in business, you're going to realize that you're going to need social networking, you're going to need face-to-face, you're going to need to have, let's say, perhaps a business group. If you are in business, you need to have a strong contact business group where you can meet every week and educate those people in that group about your business and how they can help you to find business. So yes, social media is fine, that's a great way, but don't get the two confused, because you could be looking at social media and finding a lot of people who, yes, they also are in business and they want to sell you their product or service. That is happening quite a bit. Social media is now used to do selling, and that was not the original concept of it. But that's not anything we can get around or get away from. The important thing is to know how you're going to use it to your advantage. So social media is welcome. All the media is welcome.
We'll be talking about building the business once it gets started already, but I want to also, again, go back to the beginning. Because, you know, sometimes you think you have this really great idea, think it hasn't been tried before. You're afraid to tell other people about it because somebody may run with the idea before you can get it. How do you get over that sort of thing?
Don't even let that be a concern. It's your idea. They can't manage it like you can. You know how to think on your feet, so to speak, if something is not happening the way you want it. If they steal it from you, they don't have that intuition. They don't have that sense of understanding, the feeling of it. Okay? So don't worry about that. That will happen. You can't allow that to deter you, because that's going to happen no matter where you go, or whatever kind of business it is. So welcome that. That's the point I'm trying to lead up to. If you say there's competition or someone wants to steal your idea, reach out to them. Bring them in. I guarantee you what will happen in the long run, or even in the short run, you two will begin to complement each other.
Okay. 3 minutes, so we're going to try and break up the last 3 sets in steps in 3-minute blocks if possible. Let's just say that we've ticked all the boxes. We've gotten rid of our energy vampires. We've paid attention to social media. We're not branding, PR, marketing. We're not suffering from call reluctance. Step number 2.
Step number 2, well, once you've put all of that in place, then you have to work it, because these are your fundamental steps. You don't have to start adding anything else to these. You have to develop these. Oh yeah. And this must now become a habit. And anyone will tell you that a good habit takes 21 to 90 days before it really becomes a habit. So you've got this working program in front of you, and you've got to work it. That's why I started in my opening remarks. I was telling you about, hey, what's your target market? Where are you going to try to sell this product? Have you done that research? Do you know there's a need or demand, or are you trying to create a need or demand? These are the fundamental things you need to know. And a great person to talk to have on board is going to be your accountant. Got to have your accountant on board so that they can tell you how much time and money this is going to cost you, and how you had better make that money to pay for the cost. Because if you can't pay for the cost, you're not going to go anywhere. So you need that, and startup capital is very important, and it's the biggest energy vampire that...
Look at that word again.
Yeah, the startup capital is where a lot of young entrepreneurs, if you want to call them that, have their greatest challenge. Fantastic ideas, bubbling with them, no money. How do you get the money? I think that's perhaps a step that you may want to touch on. We may want to touch on, how do you find the finance?
Which brings me to a point, because you've mentioned on a couple of occasions getting the accountant in there in the beginning. Generally, people think of the accountant somewhere later when you have to try and consolidate all that. And then that is going to be a cost too. How do you wrap all that up in the fact that it may not be the startup capital, but you need an accountant up front?
Yeah, well, these are the challenges, and you're going to have challenges. There's no silver bullet here that I'm speaking about. But you have to understand that. So you may decide to get some accounting assistance from a final year student.
Really critical at the beginning?
Yes.
You would say that?
Yes, you need to get the proper guidance from the start. It's like an athlete. Your objective is to get the gold medal. Huh? That's the final analysis for you, the goal. So you got to start with the right people on board. So you need to find these people. You need to bring these people into your network. And as I said, most of all, very important, you got to have a way of keeping the business coming in the door. And that requires you join a strong contact business network like
That's branding.
Good
Very
PR.
good branding.
Thank you very much,
You're
Mr.
welcome.
Belgrave.
You
We
are
will
welcome.
continue to develop these steps next Tuesday, so we
Okay.
look forward to hearing more on that, getting it right from the very start.
There you go.
So we want you to stay with us, because we have much more still to share with you on Morning Barbados. We'll be right back.
Morning Barbados, good morning.